It's been a time full of opportunities for unscrupulous scammers.
A time where loneliness and isolation have been preyed upon like never before.
Cases of romance fraud have skyrocketed. It can be an emotionally and financially devastating crime, with victims losing an average of £10,000.
Whether you're retired, a teacher or a doctor, it could happen to anyone.
I can't believe that I believed them.
So we're back to expose the lies behind these audacious cons and to try and stop the scammers in their tracks. We'll be revealing the tricks these scammers will use to cheat and mislead.
They're exchanging information and this can be moved around on a dark web.
And meeting the teams working day and night to bring them to justice.
Police, open the door.
And as ever, we'll have everything you need to know to make sure you and your money stay safe.
Who the are you?
Don't swear at me, pal.
Coming up, emotions run high as this woman learns how she was tricked into parting with more than £120,000.
I was careful, do you know? The strange thing is, I was careful.
And DC Rebecca Mason takes on an organised fraud gang.
So at the moment I've got 7 serials out on the ground about to go and ruin these people's mornings.
Police, can you open the door, please?
We've been contacted by a lovely lady called Jaqueline. She was scammed over a long period of time by a guy called Bobby. Let's take a look.
I went on the Dorset dating website, and suddenly this nice-looking man came through, and we started messaging each other on the website, and his name was Bobby Gentle. Within a very short time, we were telephoning, and he was telling me that unfortunately one of the checks that had gone into his bank account from his last contract had bounced, and would I be good enough to send him money. Over the course of 8 years, unfortunately, I gave Bobby Gentle over £120,000.
That's a lot of money she's lost over a long period of time.
It really is.
With such a large amount of money in play, I'm wasting no time in sifting through the documents surrounding this case.
And 83-year-old Jaqueline has agreed to travel from her home in Dorset to meet with me so I can find out more about this man, Bobby Gentle.
Hello, Jaqueline.
Hello, Kym.
After tragically losing her husband of 50 years, former police officer Jaqueline wanted to find companionship.
It was the year of our golden wedding, and by the September, he was given 3 months to live. And I watched the man I love slowly fading away before my eyes.
That must have been devastating for you.
Absolutely. 2 years went by. When I was feeling particularly lonely, it was Christmas time, and I'd heard about dating online, so I thought, well, I'll give it a try and see. Because the one thing that Davy said, do not stay on your own. I do not want you to have a lonely old age.
Sounds like a wonderful man.
He was.
Taking the advice that David had left her, after selling the family home and moving to a retirement complex, Jaqueline attempted to move on and joined an online dating site.
And within a few days, this Bobby Gentle contacted me. It was just companionship, and he was easy to talk to.
Yeah.
I suppose because I was so lonely, it was something to look forward to every night when he rang.
Bobby Gentle told Jaqueline he was a petroleum engineer based in the Caspian Sea. He was of South African and Italian descent, and he had studied at university in the UK.
And he told me about his family, and unfortunately he was divorced. He had a son, and his wife now lived in America with his son. But he had what he called a family home up in North Kensington.
It was February 2011. Bobby claimed he needed cash to buy some equipment. Jaqueline refused, but shortly afterwards, Bobby was back, asking for £1,200 to cover import tax on the new equipment he was having delivered to the UK.
Did he kind of suggest he would come back?
He was always going to come. From that first time that I sent the money, he was coming back the following weekend, and he would pay me back.
Jaqueline decided to check out Bobby's story and pay a visit to his address in the North Kensington area of London.
I knocked on the door and there was no reply. And the neighbour came out.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm looking for Bobby Gentle's home. Oh, Gentle's, yes, they live there. Oh, look, it said. And this car drew up. And this lady got out and she said, that's Jenny Gentle. And I said, I'm looking for Bobby. And she said, well, she didn't know anything about it, and Bobby wasn't there.
When Jaqueline confronted Bobby with his story, he told her Jenny Gentle was his cousin who was staying in his North Kensington home after separating from her partner. Feeling satisfied that it was Bobby's house, Jaqueline continued to be swept along by him and his request for money.
There was always something else that was happening. He was either ill or some more equipment had broken and he needed to get it replaced, or he had to move on to another oil rig.
How were you sending that money? Where were you sending it to?
To begin with, I went to the local post office and sent it by MoneyGram. And then I used to go into Yeovil to send it through Western Union.
Month on month, Bobby was asking for thousands and thousands of pounds. His expenses were starting to seriously take their toll on Jaqueline's finances.
To begin with, it was what I had left from my move, and then it was on credit cards. And then I wanted to clear my credit cards, so I took out equity on my home. But it didn't go and clear my credit cards, did it? It went to Bobby.
Like so many of our cases, Jaqueline met Bobby Gentle on an online dating site. Whether these sites are doing enough to protect vulnerable older users is a question that comes up time and time again. I'm meeting George Kidd from the Online Dating Association to see what the sites that have signed up to the association are doing to keep scammers off their platforms and ask him whether that's good enough.
What do people need to look out for in terms of online dating sites prior to online dating?
Transparency. I think
what does that mean?
Well, I think I want to know who's running the site. I want to know who's behind it. I'd like to know that they provide contact numbers. I'd like to be able to respond to them and report to them if I have an issue. I want to know how they charge for the service.
So just to be clear, if a site has fake profiles, if it has scammers, they will not be allowed onto your association?
I think the challenge is the site doing all it reasonably can to keep a fake profile and a scammer's profile off the service? That's the question.
Right.
Nothing is absolute. If it was absolute, we would have to put 20 million people through identity checks at points in the road. It's a proportionate response.
What can dating sites be doing to protect vulnerable users?
That's almost one of those $64,000 questions. It's very difficult to identify when somebody is vulnerable. The average user,
okay,
in terms
so
of
in the
loss...
For example, you're elderly.
Yes.
And you're looking for love, because let's face it, we're all a bit vulnerable when we're looking for love.
Yes.
An elderly, vulnerable person, should there be better protection measures in place?
I think there's a question about whether there should be different protection measures in place. But we work very closely with the police. It's not evident. That's not complacency. Less than 10% of the people that are ripped off and report it to Action Fraud are over 65, over 70. The most targeted community is aged between 50 and 60.
Yeah.
Now, are they elderly? Have they lost the kind of ability to reason and make judgments? Or are they vulnerable because of their circumstance? They've just been divorced, they've just been widowed, they're looking for love, they're looking to replace something that's been in their lives. Yes, there can be a vulnerability, but I don't think there's an age trigger that makes it work. The most targeted young men in terms of frauds are aged 18, 25. So there's a different vulnerability, and we just have to think, what is it that makes certain people vulnerable, and deal with that.
Vulnerability was in play when 83-year-old former police officer Jaqueline Richardson ended up making more and more payments to a man she met online. She hoped this Bobby Gentle would eventually pay her back as promised. She was trapped in a vicious cycle that lasted 8 years. Then, in November 2018, while Jaqueline was visiting her son in California, that cycle broke.
He rang me out there and he wanted more money. I could not get any money or get to a bank, do anything about it. So that was it. I was in a lot of debt. I've now put my property on the market because I'm hoping to sell and buy something cheaper.
Jaqueline has been trying to forget the past and put her life back together. But out of the blue, in March 2020, Bobby Gentle came back to haunt her.
I had an email. It was headed up inheritance for over £1 million. They said that as they had not heard from Bobby Gentle, they assumed that he had died and that he'd made me his next of kin, and this money was waiting for me. Even now, there's a tiny fraction of me that still believes it. Probably because that's hope that I'll get the money back.
Yeah.
Jaqueline has been told that unless she pays £7,200 in fees, she won't receive any money. Despite a small bit of hope this email could be genuine, she says she won't pay. We're going to get Jaqueline the answers she needs about the authenticity of these latest emails.
The one thing that does really bother me is that despite the fact that she's gone through so many years, there's still a tiny part of her that believes that he could be an actual person, in the hope that she might actually get her money back.
I'm investigating the information we've got from Jaqueline. Over 8 years, she called Bobby Gentle on several different mobile numbers, and I'm checking these out. A phone number that Bobby contacted Jaqueline on back in 2014 has come up on a scam warner's website. That's not good news. And it isn't just the phone numbers that are fishy. The photos he sent her of himself also appeared on scam alert pages. So, what about the house in London that Bobby said he owned? I'm going to look up an address that Bobby sent to Jaqueline. Now, of course, Jaqueline said she met a Jenny Gentle when she visited. Well, it shows that some years ago, a Joyce Gentle did live there. This is really suspicious. My hunch is that what Bobby has done is he's taken the name Gentle that's associated with this address and used it to create his identity of Bobby Gentle. More recently, Jaqueline has had an email from a finance company. They say Bobby Gentle is dead and Jaqueline is his main beneficiary. Okay, so Jaqueline was contacted by a man called Mohammed Bello from Sky Savings Finance. I've emailed the company directly to see if that's a legit person who works for their organisation. They responded very quickly, and it's a very curt, to the point email. We don't have such a name, thanks. So, the number, the address, Sky Savings Finance, all of it, not true.
Romance scammers often operate in organised gangs using sophisticated criminal techniques to access the most amount of money from their unsuspecting victims. But there's an even bigger gang looking to stop them in their tracks: the UK police force.
It's a cold December morning in Surrey, and DC Rebecca Mason is preparing a major operation that will blow apart a romance fraud crime gang.
So it's about 5:15 now. I've been at Woking Police Station since about 2:30 this morning, prepping for warrants that are going ahead all around the UK this morning for Operation Outback. So at the moment I've got 7 serials out on the ground about to go and ruin these people's mornings.
After months of work, DC Mason's team are assembling to bring in multiple men and women who've scammed more than 15 victims aged between 50 and 79 out of almost £500,000.
Well, since I joined the Economic Crime Department, I've had 2 of these jobs to this level. I mean, this case alone is about just under £500,000, and that's just on the victims we know about that are willing to speak to police and have come forward.
Raids are taking place all across the south of England. One of the units with a target in their sights is being run by DS Mark Bracknell in Surrey.
Hi Rebecca, it's Mark Bracknell. Yeah, we're all here. So yeah, we're just going to start getting briefed and stuff. He is going to be arrested in relation to frauds. The idea is to search the address. We're looking for mobile phones, paperwork, any other kind of financial documentation that will support any evidence towards those offences.
Timing is of the essence in raids like this, so DC Mason and the team can all have their targets taken out before any raise the alarm to their fellow conspirators.
The need to execute warrants at the same time for offenders is quite rare, but for a case like this, because we know we've got electronic devices, we've got SIM cards, a lot of mobile phones that can easily be wiped, and all it would take is one phone call from one suspect to another one, and we have lost data. Not only that, we're fully aware that majority of these suspects have dual nationality, so they could be on the next plane out.
Each of the 7 units scattered across Hampshire, Surrey and Greater London travel to their target properties. Once all teams are in position, DC Mason will call for a strike, the official go-ahead for each team to hit the doors of their suspects.
Hotel Charlie 00 to all units. Strike, strike, strike.
Police, can you open the door, please? We're coming in, mate. We've got a warrant. Let's come in, yeah?
That's how much?
Guys, the subject's going to be upstairs. He will be upstairs, apparently.
The teams were led to the suspects via bank account analysis, which is also what connects the separate addresses. The aim for today is to catch suspects, find evidence to further connect them to the romance fraud crimes, and then weigh up charges. Fraud by false representation carries a prison sentence of up to 10 years. But with such a large-scale operation, it's vital that the teams on the ground bring in their targets and whatever evidence they can find.
We have got him, we've spoken to the occupants, and we have got the guy we're looking for. So he's upstairs, he's been arrested at the moment, and now we'll start searching the address.
It's been a good start, and news of multiple arrests begin to filter back to DC Mason in HQ.
Hotel Charlie 44, entry gain, subject name.
This is the winner. Come on.
Charlie 45.
Go ahead.
Positive at this address.
Yeah, received.
Hotel Charlie 41, entry gained, it's a negative here, over.
Mark Bracknell's team have got the suspect in handcuffs. Now, they need to find additional evidence in their search of the property.
This is a complicated fraud case, so that it could be the smallest thing in there that they find. It could be a SIM card, it could be a USB stick, it could be a letter that will connect them.
Whilst Mark and his team continue to hunt for evidence, DC Mason is hoping to pin down another suspect.
The only 2 options we've got really is to ring him and find out where he is and go pick him up, or put him on as wanted. And I think at the moment we've got no other option but to ring him if we're going to try and get control of it.
When DC Mason makes the call, the suspect offers to hand himself in, meaning another target is ticked off.
At the moment, I think we've got 4 out of the 7.
Prior to the raids, any overseas flights in the suspects' names were checked, but that hasn't been enough to stop one of the targets slipping through the net.
They didn't pick up on the flight record, so we don't know whether he is using fraudulent passport. He's been out of the country a while, apparently, but not according to when we did our borders. So I don't know whether he's on a different name. Either way, he is not in the UK.
Whilst the couple have slipped their grasp,
so we'll only have been missing 2. One of them's in Ghana and the other one's probably driving around the UK. That's not a bad going.
Mark Bracknell is pleased with his team's work in securing more evidence and their suspect.
We're happy, we're all done. So we've got the guy we wanted, we've got some evidence as well, we've seized quite a lot of items. So the prisoner's been interviewed now. We go back to Staines and do our paperwork and go from there.
As dawn breaks and the raids finish, it's time to take stock.
Pretty stressful, but I think we had a good result. So we've ended up with 4 in custody, 1 handing himself in this afternoon, 1 we are still out looking for, and 2 unfortunately have fled the country. After months of planning something like this, to have this result is really rewarding. It just makes your effort and the time that you put into something, it just, pays off.
Jaqueline Richardson's 8-year relationship with Bobby Gentle ended in 2018. With an inheritance waiting to be claimed, could Jaqueline be getting her money back, or is this a brand new scam?
It could be that scammer selling on Jaqueline's details, which is, of course, her being put on what's called a suckers list.
Well, look, I don't think this is going to be nice news. I don't think it ever is.
With our investigations complete, we now have to present our findings to Jaqueline.
How have you been since the last time we spoke?
Okay, a very tiny part of me wishes that it is true, because then obviously I'd be out of the financial situation that I found myself in.
Bobby Gentle was clearly very convincing and had answers for everything. When Jaqueline visited his London home address, she met with a Jenny Gentle. Bobby said this was his cousin and that he owned the house.
We did look up the details of the people who've lived there for the last 20 years, and there is no record whatsoever of a Bobby Gentle living at that address. We believe that a Joyce Gentle lived at the property between 2002 and 2017. We think it's likely that the person you knew as Bobby saw the surname of the occupant and used it to build a fake identity.
I think so, yeah.
I'm aware that you don't have many photos of Bobby.
No.
But we did reverse image search what was available to us, and we found an update about this photo on a scam warning page dating back to 2013.
Wow. So he was on there.
Suggesting that this photo has been in circulation by scammers, and you may not be the only person being duped by those photos. Now, we also found a photo of Bobby on another scam warning page, and this time, his name is Will Smith.
I mean, now, looking back, I'm devastated to think that I believed him all those years and all that money.
Bobby stopped contacting Jaqueline in November 2018. Then, in March 2020, she was contacted by a firm telling her Bobby was dead and that for a fee, she would be the sole recipient of his estate. Jaqueline finally thought she might see her money again.
We took copies of emails to Gary Miles. Now, Gary Miles is a cybercrime expert at the Metropolitan Police. He said the grammar mistakes alone in these emails are enough of a concern to suggest something is suspicious.
All right.
Gary also questioned why any official email would be coming from a Gmail account.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as you can see, one of the emails was sent at 1:15 a.m. What official body sends an email at that time in the morning?
Yeah.
These multiple errors are clear indicators that not all is as it seems.
Do you know, I can see that now, but why didn't I see that at the time?
because there was an emotional connection and you had an emotional investment. With all of that evidence, the emails, the companies, the dodgy official correspondence, everything, the photos, Jaqueline, we cannot see any evidence that Bobby Gentle was who he claimed to be.
No.
And we believe that Bobby, Volley and Mohammed are all made up identities by a scammer or a group of scammers to trick you out of your hard-earned cash.
Yeah, I believe that now. Yeah, I believe that fully now, 100%. I know that now.
What's really sickening is that not only did they or he take so much money off you in the first place, but they come back for more with this.
The full impact of 8 years of deceit is clearly still very emotional for Jaqueline.
I think I was in such a dark place. Watching somebody you've lived with for 50 years die over 3 months. And suddenly I'm on my own. And somebody said, go online, and I did. But all the lies that he'd told me, I can't believe that I believed them. I find it very, very hard that I did that.
These scammers are so cunning and crafty and relentless and so sophisticated in what they do. You cannot feel like you're at fault for falling for someone.
Jaqueline, so after we've delivered all of this information, tell us how you're feeling now and what you've learned from this, what you can take away with you.
I know now positively that Bobby is a scammer, and I feel, part of me, thank goodness it's all over.
Now that the reality of who Bobby Gentle really is revealed, with the help of her new partner Michael, hopefully Jaqueline can move on with her life.
Be all right?
Yeah, it's hard.
Not too upsetting.
I've learnt the truth.
I mean, she's a vulnerable older lady who'd lost her husband, who was lonely, and then to lose all that money, and then now they're coming back for more.
I'm very pleased. I feel as though a weight's been lifted off my shoulders, and we can now enjoy our life together.
That's good.
I think I've learnt something. If you have a good love, I had an amazing love from my late husband. 50 years we had together. But you know, when you love like that, when you lose them, the grieving is horrendous. And I feel that scammers are looking for people. I was a sitting target.
If you think you've been scammed in a similar way or been asked to send money to someone you've been talking to online, then we'd like to hear from you. Email us at loveormoney@bbc.co.uk.
And details of organisations offering information and support with fraud are also available online at the Action Line pages of the BBC website.